The Foundation ordered a male D-Class personnel to torture D-3032 with a combat knife until she opened the door. After 2 hours of tormenting, D-3032 died from blood loss. She made no attempt to open the door in the entire process. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today, we bring you SCP Foundation Euclid Class Object SCP-303. SCP-303, also known as The Doorman, is a nude, sexless, emaciated humanoid figure with reddish-brown skin. Instead of normal facial features, its head is dominated by an extremely large mouth, which bears a set of oversized human teeth. It continually vocalizes a wheezing noise loud enough to be heard from the other side of most solid doors. SCP-303 will periodically materialize behind any closed door, hatch, or other entryway barrier opposite an observer, chosen by unknown means. 303 will then remain behind the door for an indeterminate amount of time. Any individual attempting to open the door or barrier will experience intense, paralyzing fear that lasts until 303 dematerializes. However, analysis indicates that SCP-303 is not, in fact, purposefully inducing fear in the victims. SCP-303 does not allow itself to come into direct visual contact with any observer, and has never allowed any individual to view more than 10% of its form. When the door or other entryway barrier is partially or completely transparent, 303 will materialize in an orientation that leaves only 10% or less of its body visible, or cause effects of fog or frost on the transparent surface to achieve the same effect. If SCP-303 is approached from a direction in which there is not a solid object or door-breaking line of sight, it will dematerialize before direct visual contact is made. Any electronic or complex mechanical devices that 303 encounters will temporarily be disabled. 303 has made no recorded attempt to engage any observer physically or verbally. In an incident, a Foundation agent was showering in her private quarters bathroom when she became aware of the presence of 303 on the opposite side of the shower curtain. It was wheezing extremely loudly. Startled by the discovery, she accidentally struck the shower curtain, causing it to sway outwards. The curtain partially wrapped around 303, revealing that it was less than 0.5 meters from the curtain, standing erect and facing the shower. The agent reports spending approximately the next 3 hours sobbing in the shower, quietly, as not to disturb 303. Luckily, the agent was able to exit the shower when 303's wheezing stopped. In another incident, an agent encountered 303 inside the Foundation's break room. He was attempting to obtain coffee creamer from the counter cabinet when he heard loud wheezing emanating from the cabinet and was overtaken by overwhelming fear. The agent later reported that 303 was huddled in the cabinet in a fetal position. The agent was too afraid to open the cabinet at that moment, but later, when the cabinet was examined, one container of powdered coffee creamer was missing. This is the first recorded instance of SCP-303 removing an object from a scene. After the object missing incident, a professor was discovered dead from dehydration in a second-floor storage room. It was estimated that the professor spent up to 5 days in the storage room before being discovered. A small 4-meter by 4-meter decompression chamber separated the storage room from the adjoining hallway. 303 occupied the decompression chamber for the duration of the professor's isolation in the storage room, disallowing entry from either direction and making it impossible for him to leave. After all the above incidents, a team consisting of a researcher, a professor, 4 security personnel, and 4 D-Class personnel were assigned to immediately perform on-site testing. The following test took place at the door to a room from the first-floor hallway, which SCP-303 was reported to be within the room. 1 male D-Class personnel, D-3031, was ordered to open the door, and threatened that if he does not open the door, he would be transferred to another horrible SCP duty for non-compliance. He refused, citing extreme fear. Then, the Foundation threatened him again, saying that if he doesn't do it, he would be terminated on the spot for non-compliance. He refused, claiming that if he were to do so, that SCP-303 would hurt him. He was terminated on the spot. Shortly after, a female D-Class personnel, D-3032, that had witnessed the termination of D-3031 was ordered to open the door. and threatened that she would be terminated on the spot for non-compliance. She refused, claiming that if she opened the door, that SCP-303 would hurt her. And although D-3032 was not terminated, the Foundation ordered a male D-Class personnel, D-3033, to torture D-3032 with a combat knife until she opened the door. After 2 hours of tormenting, D-3032 died from blood loss. She made no attempt to open the door in the entire process. The Foundation once assigned Dr. Hessen to test on SCP-303, along with SCP-729-J. SCP-729-J is a soft toy that gives death stare and corrode anything or anyone who even catches a slight look at it. When Dr. Hessen was told to walk through the door with 303 on the other side while holding SCP-729-J, 303 promptly opened the door for Dr. Hessen and ushered her through before quickly exiting the room, with Dr. Hessen showing no sign of the usual fear response. 303 was found 6 hours later in an abandoned storage closet in a fetal position, sucking its thumb. SCP-303 appears to have claimed the second-floor storage room as its own. It has so far disallowed any personnel entry to the room since May 4th of 2010. It leaves periodically to acquire Foundation property, which is then moved into the second-floor storage room. To date, 303 has acquired 1 cryotube, 3 sets of standard Foundation surgical equipment, 2 D-Class research cadavers, 1 gasoline-powered generator, a variety large quantities of chemicals, and also a container of powdered coffee creamer. In addition to this, a number of classified materials have been obtained by SCP-303. Staff are still attempting to determine what specific purposes SCP-303 may have for these materials. 303 was also suspected of stealing SCP-573 and SCP-899. This incident was recorded in Site-62's containment breach record. It was about 1:34 a.m. that day, and 303 manifests outside Site-62's main entrance. Security personnel were panicking and fleeing. 10 minutes later, 303 opens Site-62's main entrance doors. Video feeds overcome with static for a period of 36 seconds. Video blackout follows possible route of entity through site. Then, a SCP personnel reported seeing 303. It headed towards inanimate SCP storage vaults. Security team was tasked to contain 303 immediately. After about 20 minutes, the entire security team was incapacitated by SCP-303. 303 exits Site-62 unopposed, and video interference finally ceases. Security later reports an overwhelming feeling of terror, preventing them from acting against 303. Upon inspection of Site-62 after the incident, SCP-573 was found missing. Warnings sent out to all sites to be on guard for the entity. However, things didn't just end there. Around 6:17 in the evening the next day, personnel at an unknown site report feeling of unease and panic. As the site is situated in the Rocky Mountains, it was put on lockdown while nearby sites were contacted. All the video feeds of the site were disrupted. Power fails, distress signal deactivates automatically. The site was unresponsive to outside contact. After an hour, MTF Alpha 16 finally arrived at the site, but all personnel found dead of evisceration or remain missing. MTF fails to verify location of anomaly housed at the site. SCP-899 declared missing. As SCP-303 has not yet been known to travel beyond the boundaries of an unknown site of the SCP Foundation, the entire area of the site is currently considered as SCP-303's containment area. All rooms in the site are to be altered, as to have 2 entrances separated by a distance of 10 meters or line of sight. Personnel are to be distributed evenly throughout the facility, with available radio or intercom contact so that encounters may be resolved quickly. Personnel who witness SCP-303 are to be submitted for immediate psychiatric evaluation. All SCP objects housed at the same site since before April 6, 2010 are to be transferred to another site, one at a time. They felt helpless. All they could do was just sit in the bathroom and hope they would go away. The room felt like their only safe haven, until they were exposed to them for too long. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today we bring you SCP Foundation Euclid Class Object SCP-1471. SCP-1471, also known as MalO version 1.0.0, is a free 9.8 megabyte application for mobile devices, distributed in online application stores with this description. Never settle for those awkward feelings of being alone ever again. MalO is an exciting and interactive experience that will keep you engaged and intrigued. The anxiety of social situations can be nerve-wracking, but after just a few hours of MalO, you will soon forget all about those painful emotions of disappointment. Be part of the new craze that is quickly becoming the next social substitute. Remember, the more you participate, the more MalO will engage you. Your experience is completely up to you. Absolutely no ads. Enjoy! 1471 has no listed developer and is somehow able to bypass the application approval process to go directly to distribution. 1471 is also able to avoid removal by other program manager applications. After SCP-1471 is installed, it will then begin to send the user images through text messaging every 3 to 6 hours. All images will contain SCP-1471-A, either within the background or foreground. SCP-1471-A appears as a large humanoid figure with a canid-like skull and black hair. On the first day of installation, the mobile device will receive images taken at locations commonly frequented by the user. After 48 hours, the mobile device will receive images taken at locations that were recently visited by the user. After 72 hours, the mobile device will receive images of the user in real time, with 1471-A appearing within close proximity to the user. Users with over 90 hours of exposure to the continuous images will begin to briefly visualize 1471-A within their peripheral vision, reflective surfaces, or a combination of the two. Continued exposure to 1471 after this point will cause irreversible and sustained visualizations of 1471-A. Users at this stage have reported periodic attempts made by 1471-A to visually communicate with them, but fail to understand or comprehend these actions. Currently, the only known treatment to reverse 1471's effect is to eliminate the user's visual exposure to the images prior to 90 hours after installation. To date, no apparent hostile activity has been reported regarding 1471-A. All mobile devices that have 1471 installed are to be confiscated and analyzed for any potential leads to other possibly affected devices. Afterwards, affected devices are to have their batteries removed, be assigned a designation, and be placed in Storage Unit 9-1 at Research Site 45. Here's a story from a man called William about his experience with 1471-A, which he calls it Capone. William started seeing Dr. Laura Brenz 2 years ago, after he first met Capone. William said, "I was scared when I first saw him. It happened just as you told me. The messages, the pictures, seeing him around every corner afterwards. I was so young, who wouldn't have lost it?" Believe me, William, I know many people have reacted the same way. Fear is a more common reaction to the unknown than you'd think, Dr. Brenz consoled him. It's not that I'm afraid of him anymore. I mean, he makes me jump when I see him in the morning. I don't think I'll ever get used to that. It's just the bad connotations he has, William rebutted. I know that he does, but it happened 2 years ago. I know it's hard for you, especially with your shadow, but you need to carry on, Dr. Brenz stated. William just sighed as she continued. Our session is almost up. We made some real progress, William. When you get home, I want you to think back to your first experience and write as much as you feel comfortable sharing. Is that all right? Yeah, thanks for seeing me. William then drove home from the doctor's office. He drops the backpack near the door. Go to the patio. Wave to Capone from the mirror. Fridge. Drink. Chair. Crash. He grabbed a few sheets of paper and a pen. Bit by bit, he pieced together the sequence of events that led up to this point. According to William, Capone had been with him ever since he was 15 years old. One day, Sarah, William's sister told him about an app that she downloaded. She said to William, "It tracks you through your phone's GPS and sends you pictures of the places you've been, with a really cute monster placed in the photo to make it look like it's following you." Her description of it sounded pretty cool to him, so he asked Sarah to help him download it on his phone. After some prodding, she found the app, which was a surprise to the both of them. It was obvious that his phone didn't have any kind of GPS, but neither of them had even thought about it until much, much later. Soon, William received his first picture. The first picture he received was a photo taken in his school's courtyard, with Capone sitting on one of the benches. Capone was covered in his black, matted fur, with his knife-like claws, a set of blank, pure white eyes, and that face, which was merely a skull belonging to some kind of large beast, looking directly at them with that large, wolfish grin. William gave the phone back to Sarah, telling her how terrifying it was, and that he didn't want to receive such messages anymore. She just jokingly punched his shoulder, saying, "I'm sure he'll grow on you eventually. Tell you what, if you can put up with him for one whole week, we'll go see that movie you've been wanting to see. If he still gives you nightmares, we'll delete it. If you end up liking it, we'll laugh about it later. Deal?" William looked at it again and unwillingly agreed to it. Sarah was ecstatic after that and showed him all the pictures she received. She only had 3 so far, one at her office, one at the park, and another on the road they lived on, each picture containing her own clearly visible entity. Sarah told William that she had named it Cassandra. After that night, William continued to get pictures of Capone for a while, following him at school, the bus stop, his street, virtually everywhere he went. Some days later, William got called out from class by Sarah. While driving back home, she kept asking questions about Capone. Sarah then told him they were being pursued by something. She had no idea on how they were doing it, but she knew that they knew where she and William lived. She couldn't figure out how to delete it. She said she tried everything but couldn't find a way to get rid of it. She couldn't even find where the app went. Suddenly, William got a text from the app. Sarah froze and stared at him, as if to say, "Don't look at it." But he did it. The photo was taken from the hood of the moving car, giving them a clear view of what was behind them. Capone took up most of the back seat and towered over William. They both turned around, preparing to scream at the monstrosity behind them. But when they did, the seat was empty. They didn't know what was happening or what to make of it, but they felt that the only thing to do is to run away, abandoning the car. They hastily ditched the car, ran the rest of the way to the apartment, and locked the door behind them. They locked themselves in the bathroom and waited. They just stayed there, even when they got a message from Cassandra or Capone. Sarah would scream at them, asking why they were following them, and begged for them to be left alone. They felt helpless. All they could do was just sit in the bathroom and hope they would go away. The room felt like their only safe haven, until they were exposed to them for too long. Sarah started to panic, saying that she kept seeing one of them behind her. He tried to calm her down by telling her that maybe they were not really there. Then he saw Capone in the mirror. William convinced Sarah that they needed to leave the room right away. They couldn't stay in the apartment forever. They called the police and they both got help. Everyone's case was different in terms of interaction, but for William, Capone was always in a mirror or some reflective thing large enough to show it. Capone was predictable, and William could always find ways to block him out when he needed it. He learned how to expect Capone, and after a while, Capone kind of grew on him. Capone always seemed to try and interact with him, even if William didn't understand what it was trying to say most of the time. But he would greet Capone with a casual wave as he passed by it from the living room mirror, and eventually, Capone started to wave back. Capone kind of became a constant companion to William. However, Sarah was not as lucky as William. Her case was much more serious. She saw Cassandra everywhere she looked and around every corner. Unfortunately, Sarah couldn't handle it anymore and took her own life. Now, every time he sees Capone, he is reminded of what he did in the car that day. If he didn't pick up that text, she would still be here. But then again, who would have known? No one knows who made the MalOs or why. No one knows if anyone actually made the app. 2 years since the incident, William learned how to get used to Capone being there and carry on with his life. Despite everything, William found himself talking to it, like one would talk to a dog or cat about their day when they're alone. William always said to Capone, "At least I know you're interested." It was just a room with a bed and a window. What could go wrong? The D-Class thought, and has never been so wrong, as he huddled tensely in the bed, wishing that the man would stop staring at him through the window and go away. He began to be afraid to fall asleep, as he would have nightmares of being chased and tormented. Even when he was awake, he found no peace, as the shadowy man always appeared at the edge of his vision and vanished as quickly as he turned his head. Lately, the shadowy man has started to wear a sinister smile across his face. He began to grow restless and developed insomnia, and soon vomited blood. His nightmare had become just a little bit realer. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today, we bring you a SCP Foundation Euclid class object, SCP-965. SCP-965, also known as the Face in the Window, is a humanoid-shaped visual manifestation within framed windows. The manifestation takes the shape of a shadowed face of a pale-skinned male that is looking through the window. For 965 to manifest itself, the outside of the window must be dim enough, regardless of lighting on the inside. Once it manifests, it doesn't move or animate in any way. However, it has been observed to be capable of disappearing and reappearing in different poses. It has also shown signs of sentience. When it manifests on a window of an empty room, it appears disappointed. When it manifests in front of a person who had broken a previous window, which 965 inhabited, it displays irritation and anger. And when it manifests in front of the agent who participated in its retrieval, 965 shows visible signs of fear. Initial effects caused by 965 include reports of unease, nervousness, and mild paranoia. These sensations will overcome anyone within visual range of the manifestation, even when it's being obscured by curtains. It was also reported that some residents of the house where 965 was discovered have also encountered problems sleeping. The Foundation ran an experiment. Several D-Class personnel were made to sleep in a chamber with a window where 965 inhabited was installed. The findings of the experiment state that anyone who sleeps in any area visible to 965 when it appears will suffer nightmares, which usually involve being chased, attacked, and tormented. Soon, it will begin to manifest with a more explicit smile than normal, at which point the subject will begin to experience heartburn or abdominal pains, and often begin to vomit blood or have blood and bodily wastes. Even after being removed from the vicinity of 965, some subjects have also reported their continued experiences of the facial manifestations in windows during dreams, as well as in their peripheral vision while awake. They become paranoid, always feeling that they were being watched or followed. 965 doesn't seem to discriminate against the age of its victims, as shown in the following incident. A daycare assistant from the South walked into a room one day while the children were doodling with crayons. He glanced over the table, seeing drawings that were the representations of the children's psychologies, such as kids taller than one parent, kids under the rain, and kids shooting at various animals. He stumbled upon a child whom he called Thomas, and what he drew on the paper caught his attention. It was a crude crayon drawing of a window. The lines were unsightly crooked, giving it a juvenile feel. On the lower right corner of the window, there was a humanoid head shape with 2 black eyes and nothing else. "Is this how Thomas sees me?" he pondered. Thomas was always a weird child, a 4-year-old boy who simply refused to sleep during nap time. Other kids who didn't sleep would just stare plaintively at the adults until they got embarrassed and walked away, but eventually they all fell asleep. But Thomas, instead of falling asleep, he would fake being deep in sleep until the assistant leaves the room. But as soon as he returned, Thomas would be found with his eyes open, staring at him. What the hell is going on with him? He wondered. and so he devised a plan to get the child to sleep. He kept his eyes on the child. Thomas would notice, then lay down and close his eyes. The assistant sat across him and stared at Thomas. His eyelids fluttered, slowly opening his eyes and glanced upward. Their eyes met, and Thomas quickly clamped shut his eyes. It repeated and went on for 20 minutes until the assistant noticed something weird about Thomas's breathing. It became increasingly rapid. Suddenly, he started to cry. "Quit looking! Quit looking! Please quit looking!" And the assistant thought he had won that round, and Thomas would finally stop faking being asleep. According to the parents, Thomas had been seeing a therapist, and he kept mentioning nightmares about somebody staring at him, constantly staring. A kid having nightmares about me staring at him? I'm flattered, I guess. How can a kid who doesn't sleep have nightmares? He thought to himself. As he looked at the drawing in his hand, the black eyes of the figure were starting to deeply unsettle him. He noticed something on the other side of the sheet. He flipped it over and saw the smaller sets of the same drawing of the window and a face sprawled all over the entire surface of the paper. The crude black eyes of the figures seemingly stared at him. They kept looking. They wouldn't quit looking. Feeling uneasy, he walked urgently to the room where Thomas usually slept, with the drawing clenched in his hand. He opened the door, facing the dim, empty room. At the other end, sunlight beamed weakly through the window, casting light on the ground in front of Thomas's bed. He pulled up a chair and placed it across the bed, where he sat and stared at him. He sat and looked at the drawing once again. A window and a face. He imagined from Thomas's perspective as if he's sleeping on the bed across from him. He looked at the drawing again. It didn't make sense to him. He thought to himself, "This is wrong. The window's to my right." Then something dawned on him. Was it not me that he was worrying about? His hand that was holding the drawing started to tremble as he turned and placed it in between him and the window. He slowly removed the drawing from his vision and finally came face to face with the horror behind the drawing. It was not him that Thomas saw. It was the face in the window. As for its containment procedure, 965 must be contained within a framed window which was referred to as SCP-965-1, composed of at least 6 panes of clear glass or similar material. 965-1 must in turn be kept with a facility that is capable of withstanding significant seismic disturbances. Remember to check out my new animation channel, TheRubber Talks, where I share my life story, thoughts, and opinions. Just click on the link in the description to enter the Rubber's world. Before we end this video, we are proud to present these incredibly sweet pieces of fan art. A big thank you to all of you. You can now send us your fan art, and we will be more than happy to show off your best art piece in our next video. Check out our description below on how to submit. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Which SCP do you want to see in the next video and why it is interesting? Let us know in the comment below. We will draw your story and share it with the world. Don't forget to click like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell. Please share it to your friends if you like this video. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.